Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars, welcome to another PlayStation review. Today's review is for Lacuna, a sci-fi noir adventure. Now this is on the PlayStation 4 and many thanks to Assemble, the developers who have sent me a review code. Now this game is very much a throwback to the games that we used to get all the time back in the 90s, like the point and click type graphical adventures. And on the surface, this game ticks an awful lot of boxes for me. I love the retro style of it. I like detective games. And I used to love point and click adventures. I used to play the Monkey Island games, the Broken Sword games. Absolutely loved them. I played them for many, many years. And I really used to be such a huge fan of point and click adventures. There's not as many of them on the market these days, but if there's a good quality one, I generally will be interested in it. So I was really pleased to get my hands on this one. Now, in this game, you play a police detective, Conrad, I believe he's called. And it's set, obviously, in the future. And you are put on a case. There is a murder that takes place. You are then put on the case, and as you can imagine with these types of games, it all kind of unravels from there and escalates from there. And as you know, I never really like to spoil the stories in any of my reviews. I like you to discover that for yourself. Actually, the story here is surprisingly expansive and quite involved. I didn't expect it to be as much as it was. There is little to no voiceover here. Certainly in the conversations with other characters, there is certainly no voiceover. But the only voiceover that you do get is like a narrative from the main character, Conrad, when he's kind of in his own thoughts. You get like a narrative voiceover, which is quite nice. It adds to the scene sort of thing and adds to the immersion occasionally. But for those of you who don't like text-based games in regards to the conversations, this might be a bit of a turn-off for you. It is usually a turn-off for me, certainly these days, because I don't really have the patience that I used to when I was a little bit younger in regards to text-based games. But the story was so kind of engaging for the most part. There's a couple of missteps, but I was actually engaged in an awful lot of the conversations with some of the characters, if not all of the characters. Certainly not all of the characters. There are some conversations that take place with characters that you interact with that don't really have an awful lot of bearing on the story, that you find yourself kind of flicking through. And the obvious side effect that you get with a game like this, with very little in regards to voice acting, is you'd kind of struggle to follow who is who and what they're doing and what their relevance is to the story. There are 2 or 3 kind of characters here in the game that you will remember and recognise and feel like you've got a connection with, and a lot of the others just kind of feel like traffic, and you struggle to remember who they are. And the structure of the game basically is you're given like a couple of tasks per scene sort of thing. And you'll either go to a scene and investigate, or you'll go to a scene and interview somebody, or you'll go somewhere and look for a certain thing. There's another issue that there is here with this game is there's no map. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not open world or anything like that. It is far more linear. But you're told that some of them you've got mandatory things in the missions, and some of them are optional. And it might tell you to go and speak to this certain character, and it'll give you the name of this character, and you're thinking, right, who's that and where are they? And you can't remember who it is and where you're supposed to go. So you'll find yourself sometimes wandering around the levels, trying to find or try and spark some memory in your mind of who this character is and where they could be, because you've probably been there before. And whereas it's not a major problem in a sense of it doesn't spoil the game and you're not wandering around scratching your head for long, it would have been helpful to have a few more pointers in regards to where you're going to see these people. Occasionally, certainly early in the game, you'll get like these arrows that will point you in certain directions that you need to go. But it's not as intuitive as it could be, is what I'm really trying to say. Now, it's got a pretty cool investigation system here when you're in a scene. It's not like your typical point and click adventure. What you do here in this game is You don't have to pick up random objects and mix them together to create some weird and wonderful solution to progressing to the next section of the game. What you basically have to do here is investigate. So you'll have to go into the scenes, you'll investigate certain things, certain objects will be highlighted. If you press the left 3 button, it'll highlight certain objects for you to investigate. You'll get clues that you need by either investigating the area or by interviewing suspects. And then you're kind of given like evidence sheets that you need to fill in, which is quite a cool concept here. And some of these evidence sheets will have a bearing on how the game unfolds. And by that I mean, and certainly early in the game I made a couple of errors here. You've got to really read all the information you get by the clues that you're getting, by logs that you're getting from chatting to players and interviewing players. And then you'll get these evidence sheets that will ask you certain questions, and you've got to give like a key answer, and then you've got to submit that sheet. Now, if you give the wrong evidence or you come to a wrong conclusion, the story will progress, but there will be consequences. For example, I failed to fully identify what a suspect looked like. I didn't get it all right. So when we were trying to ambush the suspect, we wrongly identified the wrong person. And even though we did manage to catch him, one of the officers was shot in the process. So there are consequences to you not doing your job well, is what I'm trying to say here in this game, which I think is really, really good, and it really adds to the immersion into the game. And fans of detective games, I think, will really appreciate it. It's quite a simple system, but it works and it's quite effective. Another thing that this game has, it doesn't allow you to manually save, so you can't go back and change your decision. You've got to basically live with the consequences of your actions. There's like a auto-save option, and it kind of saves after events in the game, or significant events that have happened in the game. It will save it. So you can't basically go back on a decision. You don't have that choice to do. So you've got to really live with all your consequences, which again I really, really liked, because the story always does progress, but you have to live with any of the consequences of your errors that you make in the game. There's a couple of issues in regards to what I think certainly are bugs. I mean, one of them certainly was I had to reload the game because the scene kind of froze after a conversation with someone. It wouldn't work, so I just basically reloaded, and luckily it was just after the game had saved, so I didn't lose any progress. So there might be a couple of bugs like that you'll come across here in the game. And once or twice, or a significant amount of times actually, you'll be having like a conversation with characters and there's no sound at all. And I don't know if that's a creative choice or if it's a bug in the game. It's just silent when this text. Now, if you've got voice acting, that's not really a problem, but that's not what's happening here. It's not as if there is any voice acting. It's basically you're going into a conversation. It's all text based, and then the thing goes silent, so it kind of breaks the immersion quite a lot. But I have to say, for a neat little old-fashioned detective game, it's got a good story here. I actually really like the way it looks. I like the detective systems here in the game, and I think for the price as well, it's definitely worth picking up. I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. Definitely worth picking up if you're a fan of detective games and little quaint, cool, old-fashioned retro games as well. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you like this review. I'll be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.